All right. Hello, everybody joining live on Zoom and also in the Chatfuel community. Today, we have a very special guest. Super excited to dive into this webinar on Facebook ads. His name is Ryan Maynard. Looking awesome right there. So basically, Ryan is a Facebook ads expert. He's been in the digital marketing space for over 14 years. He's now the CEO of a company called ChatDynamo, which doesn't really build chatbots, but they do marketing specifically through Facebook ads, which is obviously why we wanted him here. And also, formerly, he was the director of ad product for Kik. The older folks in here might not know what Kik is, but for the younger people, it's a very popular messaging and chat app. So yeah, Ryan has tons of experience. We're super happy to tap into that today. And before we get started, before I turn it over to Ryan and give him the stage, I do want to say just logistically how this webinar will work. So obviously, right now we're going to, well, in a second here, we're going to pass it over to Ryan. He's going to give an overview of Chatvertising, what exactly that means, how it works, the benefits. Then after that, he will go into 10 specific and actionable best practices for Facebook Messenger ads that you run with a bot. And then finally, Ryan will show how to easily connect your Chatfuel bot to Messenger ads if you're targeting different demographics, how to segment that and all that fun stuff. So also, the one other thing that I wanted to say is at the end of this webinar, we will have an open Q&A where you guys can ask questions. But in the meantime, since I think it's more helpful to ask questions when you're actually seeing something happen, throughout the webinar, also feel free just to type in your question, whether it's in the chat or ideally in the Q&A panel. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So Ryan, so happy to have you here. Thanks for everyone to joining as well. And I'll pass it over to you. And feel free to share your screen now.
Yeah, thank you. I hope everybody can hear me okay. I'm going to start the screen share on my side here. Looking good, Andrew?
Looking great.
Okay, perfect. So guys, thanks again, for attending. Really excited to jump into this. We're going to go over what I call Chatvertising. Quick overview of who we are, who I am, the best practices for Chatvertising, and then a very quick interactive demo at the end. So quick overview of ChatDynamo. We're one part agency, one part consultancy. We help a lot of branded chatbots with their user adoption, both paid and organic. We're also doing some cool experiments with monetization of chatbots. We do a lot of script writing and helping improve the experience for users on chatbots, whether that's re-engagement messaging or the onboarding scripts or just the overall scripts in general. And then we do work closely with some of the leading chatbot platforms from more of a product development standpoint and a strategy, helping chatbot platforms capture more media dollars and do more in the advertising space. So if you fall into any of these categories or need help with any of that stuff, please feel free to reach out to me after this. A couple of our partners, AccuWeather, eBay, Complex, some great names up there. Of course, Chatfuel and others. We've been in business for about 1.5 years now. All right, Chatvertising overview at a high level. What is Chatvertising? Ads that spark conversations between brands and consumers. I think this click-to-messenger ad format that Facebook has here is super, super powerful, showcasing one of our more successful ads that we did for the eBay shop bot. You can see over 1,000 comments on an ad, which I think is pretty remarkable. And this concept of sort of sparking a conversation by asking a question is going to be a common theme, and you'll see it again when we do the best practices later. More specifically what Chatvertising is, and in terms of what we're going to be focusing on today, it's using Facebook's click-to-messenger ad functionality, where as soon as you click on an ad, and you see examples of what those look like both in the Facebook feed, Instagram, and then most recently the Messenger platform itself, the Messenger inbox also serves ads. You click on these ads, you're taken directly into a conversation with your chatbot.
And Ryan, just real
Yes.
quickly too, to clarify, I guess we should say or point out the difference between the click to messenger ad, like you said, and also on the far right in that screenshot, that series of screenshots, the like in messenger sponsored ads. Because if I'm correct here, you can have a like messenger ad within the messenger app that doesn't actually go to a chatbot. For example, it can go to a website. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. Any of these ad formats that you see here, you could drive somebody to a website. And in fact, a majority of the ads that I see in my Messenger inbox do send somebody out of Messenger and into a website. Why I think the Messenger ads for chatbots are so powerful is because you stay within that app. There isn't this process of one app closing, another app opening. So we've seen a lot of success and really high performance from targeting this placement. And when we get into that, unfortunately, there is a limitation right now. I suspect Facebook will lift this in time, where in order to target your ads for your chatbot in Messenger, you also need to include targeting on the Facebook news feed as well. But I think they're gonna open that up and let people target Messenger.
And one more point on this too before you move on. For the, like you talked about how ads can obviously drive people off Facebook on an external website. When you're doing ads that direct people specifically to stay within Messenger, do you tend, and I know this is kind of a big question, but do you tend to see like better conversion rates as a result of that because they're not leaving Facebook? Or do you have like any important data to share on that?
Yeah, in fact, so the next slide kind of goes into that a little bit. I added this, Andrew, from the last time we talked, but
Yep.
kind of why you want to use Facebook to promote your Facebook chatbots and not other popular platforms like Google or anything else. It's, I think the biggest reason for me is because Facebook, a lot of web traffic and a lot of Facebook traffic is all on our mobile devices now. I think that's no secret at this point. And Facebook will only serve a click to Messenger ad if they detect that you have the Messenger app downloaded. And I think we all probably from playing around with bots on Messenger agree that the best experience is on the mobile app chatting with a bot. And so because there's so much traffic and user activity and ad clicks on mobile devices, this to me is the biggest advantage, is that, again, Facebook will not serve the ad to you to drive you to Messenger unless they detect that Messenger is installed. And the stat that I've seen is that 46% of smartphone owners have Messenger app installed. So to put that another way, if you advertise your chatbot on Google, it's kind of a 50-50 coin flip. If somebody's going to click on their ad and then see one of these images here on the right side of this slide here, where they're prompting you to either log in or open in Messenger, the more clicks and actions that you present a user with after they click on an ad, the less likely they are to convert with your bot. So yeah, we see way more success driving traffic to chatbots through Facebook than any other platform.
I am a little interested in that too. Like, do you think there's an advantage to not necessarily like running an ad on Google because it adds so many steps, but is there some reason to, like Facebook, when you run ads, you have to do the double opt-in and everything. Is there some, valid reason to almost add extra steps when you're running an ad to like improve the quality of people? Since it takes more steps, it means they're more motivated. Is there anything to that or not really?
I don't know. I just think it comes down to, when you're spending money to drive users to your bot, the more things you put in the way of an ad click and a conversation. If somebody's interested and you present it, and we'll go into the best practices properly, they've indicated interest in clicking on the ad. But another thing to keep in mind, I mean, we're all bot enthusiasts and bot fans on this call, but for a lot of people, it's going to be their first time probably chatting with a chatbot on Messenger, and even more likely, it's their first time clicking on an ad and then going into a conversation. You want to make that transition from ad click to conversation as seamless as possible. So Andrew, you might have a point there about like the more steps you give somebody, the more intent they have to chat with your bot. But what we like to do is start that conversation for as cost effective as possible, and then use the power of remessaging and push notifications and all the great tools that Chatfuel makes available to then qualify and get somebody really interested in your service or your product or whatever it is. But don't get in the way. If they click on the ad, that's like that one window, that one opportunity, and seconds can be the difference of somebody actually talking to your bot or abandoning the whole experience. So definitely.
So moral of the story, don't screw it up. Don't
screw it up. Make it as easy as possible for somebody to click on an ad and chat with your bot, because as I kind of said in the last slide, there is generally, when you click on an ad on Instagram or Facebook, there's a couple of seconds will tick by. The app will close, the Messenger app will open. Those seconds are everything in people's attention spans, and just they'll abandon the whole experience. So try to tighten that up, and yeah, don't screw that up. Make sure that they're able to chat with your bot. Okay. So tools needed for Chatvertising in general. Chatfuel, of course. We're all Chatfuel enthusiasts here. Facebook Ad Manager is the platform that you use to build these ads and create these experiences. Canva is one of my favorite platforms for creating the ads themselves. I mean, when you create an ad, you have to put an image, likely, and if you have the ability to do video and more animated stuff, great. But we found a ton of success just using really good static image ads that we create on Canva. And then have your phone nearby. Again, I think with a majority of people clicking on your ad, chatting with your bot, they're going to be on their mobile device. So when it comes to previewing that experience, make sure you have your phone handy and always preview and go through the experience, not just the ad experience, but the onboarding and that initial conversation with your bot. Do it on your phone, because that's where a majority of people are going to be chatting. Chatvertising has created this new conversion funnel. I think a lot of folks, especially if you're interested in paying for traffic to your bot and paying for conversations, you probably want some return on that investment, and you probably want people to either fill out a lead gen form or sign up for something or buy something. So keep in mind that, again, like there will be drop off along the way of this funnel. People will click on the ad. There'll be some drop off between the ad click and that initial engagement, which, again, hopefully our best practices hope to minimize as best as possible. And then generally, again, I think because it's people's first time chatting with the bot, you might not see that conversion in somebody's first user session. So take full advantage of the sequencing, the broadcast messaging, all the tools that Chatfuel has to push notifications and keep that re-engagement and that one-to-one communication alive. Really embrace that as part of the strategy, and then eventually, if you do that right, people will convert. But that middle of the funnel here does take some strategy and some patience. It's not like traditional advertising where somebody clicks, they go to your site, they purchase. There is a bit of massaging needed and a bit of communication needed with the user to get them to convert. And we have a webinar lined up specifically for sequences and drip campaigns and all that great stuff coming up. So stay tuned. Excellent. Excellent. So again, warnings, there will be drop off along this conversion funnel. And particularly, and I think anyone that's tried Chatvertising and tried doing the click to messenger ads on Facebook has noticed that, I mean, 50% is in some cases high. The amount of people that drop off between your ad click and then actually initiating a conversation. And there's a number of factors that influence that. And when we get into the best practices, we're going to try to minimize that. But it will happen. The best we've seen is in the high 80% or so of people that actually click on an ad, chat with your bot. We call that the first engagement rate, and we'll go into that in a bit more detail later. But just, it will happen. Not every ad click is going to generate a conversation with you. And then there will be discrepancies too, whether you're using a third-party reporting dashboard like a Dashbot, or you're using your Facebook inbox, your Messenger inbox. The number of new conversions that are reported in Facebook will be slightly higher than what you see in your inbox. So if you're counting one by one all of the conversations that were generated and then trying to compare them to Facebook, discrepancies, that they will be there. So don't be too alarmed if you see, it shouldn't be any more than 10%. but they will be there. All right, now into the best practices.
This is the best part, guys.
Yeah. So, and I tried to do these in order. I'm a big fan of top 10 lists, and I tried to like prioritize these. So my number one best practice is to avoid get started. Again, and it kind of supports what we were saying before about introducing too many steps in between the ad click and that initial experience and conversation with your chatbot. Do not send people to your get started page from an ad click. There's ways around that, which we'll get into, and we'll particularly jump into this when we do the demo, but it's always using that custom welcome message feature, JSON for some of the more coder developer folks on the phone. That is by far and away the best practice, but also this notion of getting started. See the image on the left, or on the right of the text, but on the left here, where there is a welcome message there, but they're still saying, let's get started. Just jump right into the conversation. Don't ask somebody, are you ready, or ready to get started, or click below to get started. Just go right in. And again, the best practice that we've had is actually number 2 on this list, which is to ask a question. But don't expect people to want to initiate the conversation with you. You always have to be the ones breaking the ice and starting that conversation.
And Ryan, we had a question in the chat earlier about this too. So basically the goal here is to send somebody the content that they're clicking on from the ad as soon as possible. If you're running an ad and you're promoting a t-shirt, just send them directly to the information they need, instead of saying, beating around the bush and saying, click here, whatever. But the question that I was going to ask is, like, in that image to the right, we see the actual get started button. On the other one, we see like an actual welcome message. Yes. Can you talk about, like, because I know there's like there's like the comment acquisition posts you can do. There's direct Facebook ads. How do you bypass that get started button? Do you have to, or is that just what people see when they actually like message a page manually and like go to that page and click message? Yeah.
So you're going to see this get started page. If I find a cool chatbot and I forward it to you, Andrew, and I say, hey, check this out, you're going to go through this get started page. When you send somebody a bot on Messenger, if somebody's on your Facebook page and they go to message you and you've got your bot connected to your page, they're going to see that get started page. So it's not like you can get rid of it altogether, but when it comes to paying for ads and driving ad clicks into your bot, there's 2 options. And in fact, the next screen shows them. So you can either, see there's 2 options there. I've circled the one, create a custom welcome experience. Never use that other option, use your bot's get started screen. We've just found that, as the stat indicates here, we're seeing 5 times higher first engagement rates, conversations being started when you choose to use a welcome message, and even more specifically, when you use a welcome message that has 2 button options. Again, like asking a question. This was an example for a beauty brand here. Which free service would you like to book? A free facial or a free makeup session? We're not saying click with us to get started or any of that. And again, using Chatfuel, you can bypass that welcome message and that standard onboarding that you would see from the get started page and jump right into sort of deeper into your conversion funnel, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Cool. So that was number 1. Number 2, again, I kind of alluded to this, but asking a this or that or some kind of a question at the ad and then ask it again in the welcome message. Have the ad and even the same image that you use in the ad, use the exact same thing in the welcome message after a user clicks on the ad, is just so, we've done this enough for a bunch of big brands. It's just always the best performing experience that you can do. Here's some examples. We've done some, like we're working with Update, which was a dating kind of related chatbot, and asking which do you prefer, Tinder or Bumble? For the Star Wars fans, Darth Vader or Jabba the Hutt. These are questions that are kind of fun. They're engaging. People will leave comments in the ads and start little debates. I mentioned at the top the eBay ad that we ran, PlayStation versus Xbox, and Seinfeld. What's the better Seinfeld boss? These ads not only generate clicks, but people are clicking because they want to answer those questions, and so they answer the question that your bot presents to them in the welcome message, and now all of a sudden you've got a conversation started. It's just the best practice that we use time and time again.
So two things here really quick. The first that you mentioned, which I think is a really good point, is using the exact same image that you use in the ad. I'm guessing the rationale behind that is just, setting people's expectations. Like they see it, they're like, oh, this is from the ad I just clicked, instead of being like, okay, like
Right.
Who's spamming me with this?
Right.
And then the other piece that Dimitri in the chat here asked was, like, what is the advantage to setting up content natively within Ads Manager, like setting up that welcome message in Ads Manager versus, well, he actually said a ref link, but maybe you could explain why using a ref link isn't good. But also, like, what's the advantage to using Ad Manager's native tool for setting up like a welcome message versus redirecting to a block in Chatfuel, if there is any big difference there?
Again, I just think the overall difference is, from a user experience standpoint, there's nothing wrong with necessarily using the ref links and driving somebody from an ad click or from a scan code experience into a particular block in Chatfuel. That can be effective, but I just feel like that same experience of directing somebody specifically into a block can be achieved through the welcome message. And again, when we get into the demo, we'll show how to connect the welcome message buttons directly into the appropriate blocks. I also think it gives people, when you use this approach of a welcome message, it gives people an option, this idea of choice and selection, and I can sort of dictate where I want this conversation to go from here. Again, usually works better than just a click sending somebody directly to one specific landing experience.
Gotcha. Yeah, the only reason I brought up the ref URL, and I mean, we can talk about it later, I don't want to belabor the point, but sure. My thought with that is like the only way to use a ref URL, like using the actual like m.me link, is to do like a website traffic objective, and that like isn't specifically designed for like Messenger. So I thought like the ad spend or the return on ad spend wouldn't be as great or whatever. But we can talk about that more during the setup.
Yeah, in fact, that's one of the last best practices, sort of that campaign objective that you're talking about, whether you want to send people from an ad click into a website or into the Messenger experience. I mean, this idea of clicking on an ad and going to Messenger is relatively new. So there may be use cases and case studies and different things that have come out that show higher success not using the click to Messenger experience. And I'd love to talk to whoever has those. But we've just found as soon as they came out with that ability to set up a campaign with messaging as the objective, and I'm kind of, again, alluding to a best practice that's later on down the list, that just tends to work better than any of the other, traffic to a web page or any of that stuff.
Good stuff. Cool.
Number 3, we talked a little bit about this, but making sure you're looking at the correct KPIs. The big one that to me is the equivalent of a new chatbot user in Facebook terminology, it's new messaging conversations. And I've done a pretty crude screenshot here of what that looks like in the ad platform. And unique link clicks, don't just look at unique clicks or your overall cost per click. Because an ad, when you look at a Facebook ad, a click could be a like, a click could be a share, a click could be a number of different engagement with the ad, but it's the unique link click that's most important, because that's the one that takes people, they actually click on the ad, they click on your call to action button, and they're being sent into Messenger. And the difference between those two important metrics, your unique link click and your new messaging conversation, is what we call your first engagement rate. So in this example, this bot saw 378 unique link clicks and 272 new Messenger conversations for a first engagement rate of a very healthy 72%. I think a lot of people that have tried this would be happy with 72%. And this is real data for a campaign that we ran. So another way of saying that is that 28% of people that clicked on the ad never initiated a conversation with your bot, and that could be for a variety of reasons.
And so the point here to make too, so unique link clicks, as you said, means users who have seen the Facebook ad and they click on that send to messenger call to action or whatever it specifically says. And then for the new messaging conversations, is that the number of people, that's the number of people who actually not only see the message, but they actually engage with it by clicking a button or replying. Yeah, so then they effectively become a subscriber and opt in.
Exactly. I'm glad you clarified that. Yeah, and that's part of the challenge of Chatvertising is you really need to get 2 clicks. You need to get the click on the ad, and then somebody needs to click one of the buttons that you present to them in the welcome message. If they don't do those 2 actions, they're not a subscriber. They're not an engaged user that you can follow up with. So yeah, that's great. Thank you for clarifying that. It's a click and then a engagement with the message.
And then obviously like looking at that ratio. So the closer that you are to 1, meaning 100%, the better your ads are converting.
That's right. Yeah. If you can get 100% from a unique link click to a new conversation, then you're doing a great job. And again, the highest, this 72% is pretty high. We've seen it in the 80s. It's tough to get it much higher than that.
And we'll put this proposal out. If anybody can get 100% conversion rate, you can come work at Chatfuel and do our ads.
There you go. Cool. So moving along here. We talked about this before. So targeting Messenger as the placement, it's a relatively new feature. Don't forget to include it when you're in the campaign setup in Facebook. Just make sure to include Messenger. It tends to outperform Facebook and Instagram simply because I think you're keeping people within the same app and they're not experiencing that one app closing, one app opening. Number 5. So this is actually really timely. So Facebook has audience attributes that you can target, right? And some of those come from Facebook itself, people that have liked pages or behaved in a certain way within the Facebook ecosystem to say, okay, they have interest in this. But then there's another bunch of data segments that come from third parties that also help you with targeting. Facebook made this pretty crazy announcement that they're going to be doing away with all third-party data vendors. I think as early as like Friday, maybe. We're not really
GDPR.
Yeah, it's to me, I don't see that move lasting, to be honest. I think they're going to start to lose a lot of their precious advertising revenue to sources like Google and others that still offer this. But for as long as these are available, and I still think this suggestions feature will still be available whether there's third-party data or not, it's really helpful because it's tough to think about. This was an example for a Seinfeld bot that I'll keep bringing up as an example of like, okay, what are some other things? Jason Alexander, George Costanza, Festivus, 90s, right? And just using that suggestions comes up with, okay, maybe Curb Your Enthusiasm. That's a good one. Or I wouldn't have even thought of Louis C.K., but yeah, I guess like, go ahead, I'm always pretty aggressive with like putting as many relevant interests as I can into my targeting. And this suggestions feature is really helpful for that.
So that's just a strategy in general, not necessarily Messenger specific, but just a way to sort of hone in on your ideal audience.
That's right. Okay, so number 6. So I think it's, again, to set the expectation that when somebody clicks on your ad, they're going to be sent into a Messenger environment. Saying the word Messenger in the ad copy somewhere helps set that expectation. Even though it says opens in Messenger, if you look at it, or even your call to action button says send message, we've seen, and you're not going to see a huge lift, but I do think there's a better first engagement rate and an overall expectation that you're setting at the ad level itself to say, we're going to let us know in Messenger or book a free service in this example with us via Messenger, call out Messenger by name. And another thing, and I know Andrew, you and I talked about this, I wouldn't use the word chatbot. I wouldn't say, click to activate our chatbot, or I just generally we've avoided using chatbot. We've tried it in the past in ads, and it just doesn't perform as well as just saying chat with us in Messenger, or send us a message, and just being very clear.
That's interesting to me then as a best practice. excuse me, I can't talk, as a best practice, because normally I hear a lot of people say, and I've said it before myself too, like be upfront, let people know that it's a chatbot, but maybe that has a better place in if somebody's organically coming to your page, and then, you know, like you said, if they're coming in through a paid ad, maybe you don't want to lie to people, but instead of saying that it's a bot, you just want to get directly into the conversation, like we said before.
Yep. Again, like people have their own, and it's kind of like present company excluded. Like people have their own definitions of what a chatbot is. People might actually think if you say chatbot that by clicking on it, they're going to initiate a conversation with a real person. We've again seen a lot more success just referring to it as a messenger and a chat experience, but not chatbot. That was number 6. Number 7.
My favorite.
Use emojis. And this little trick, I mean, maybe it's obvious to some Mac users, but this whole control command space, I'm using it a ton, especially when I'm writing my scripts in Chatfuel, when I'm building ads. I mean, it's changed my life just knowing how to quickly bring up this little emoji keyboard on your Mac. Again, maybe it's obvious to some, but again, I brought this example back. Just look at how many emojis there are here. I've got a little thinky face for the great debate. I've got the pointer hand sending you exactly to the button I want you to press. And then as soon as they're engaging, of course, just use emojis. They're very natural. They I think suggest a fun, more casual experience. Just a huge fan of emojis.
Yeah, and I would say like social media is all about engagement and visuals. Like chat and chatvertising is not like a huge block of newspaper text. Like it should be fun. And then the other thing too that I want to mention is you mentioned how to bring this up on Mac, on Windows, and I discovered this the other day thanks to somebody in our community. You can't, if you press the Windows key and the semicolon or colon key at the same time, it will bring that up if your cursor is in like an open text field. So the more you know. Good to know. Yeah, use those emojis. Don't be afraid. Sometimes we'll work with brands that will push back, and I don't know if emojis are on brand with us. Just really convince them. Just say like, you know, you're engaging in a chat conversation. People use emojis. People use GIFs. Use what is normal in a messaging conversation. And particularly, I don't think I included this as a specific best practice, but on the welcome message, those buttons, and I think generally any button, any quick reply, include emojis there too. It makes the button just much more attractive, and people will click on it more often. We've done this with a number of clients. Just going in and simply adding a little emoji next to a button will make a big difference. And Ryan, before we go to number 8, we have a very important question, and I think it could be a next one of your like either or ads. Okay. They say, is it GIFs or GIFs? Very important. I keep saying GIFs. I've had this debate for years. I'm on the GIF wagon, which I know is also a peanut butter brand, but there we go. Cool with it. Lookalike targeting, number 8. So this is really key to a great feature that Chatfuel has, this new pro feature, this people tab, which I think really allows Chatfuel to kind of stand out from some of the other options that are out there, to just be able to export and download a list of all of your users. And as you've gathered more information about these users, emails, anything else that can be then immediately imported into Facebook, what lookalike targeting is if you've got a couple hundred users in your chatbot and you're trying to find more people, Facebook and all of their algorithms and their sophistication, they're gonna try to find people that match qualities of your existing audience. And we've found we can see as high as a 20% lift in our performance when we start taking advantage of lookalike targeting. And again, Chatfuel's people tab makes this really easy to do. We won't get too much into it in the demo, but I included a couple of screenshots here of how to set that up. It's a lookalike audience in the ad set, and then you can even, if you don't have the export from the people tab, you can do a similar type of lookalike setup for anybody who, quote unquote, people who sent a message to your page, which is it's the same thing as people that have messaged your bot. So you could actually, just using Facebook,
still do lookalike targeting just based on anybody who sent a message to your page. It's kind of buried. It's several clicks deep into the custom audience experience, but it's there and it's really effective.
And I would say a good use case for this too would be, like I mentioned an e-commerce example earlier, but for a webinar, say like this webinar, we had you guys RSVP in our Chatfuel bot. What we could do then using these lookalike audiences in the people tab that Ryan mentioned is segment users based on if they showed an interest in the webinar, use user attributes for that. Then in the people tab, we filter people who, according to the user attribute setup, showed an interest in the webinar. Like Ryan said, we export that to a CSV file, upload it, and then Facebook will find other people who share those similar interests or attributes and are most likely to sign up. So then we could do a paid ad campaign for a future webinar on Facebook ads or something like that.
Yep, and just sort of saying the same thing. I mean, this screen that I'm showing you is at the highest level. They're just going to find people that have chatted with your bot, but maybe they just said one message and then they never went forward with the conversation. What Andrew's describing, again, the power of using that people tab export is you can find people that have specifically done actions in your bot, like filled out a lead gen form or clicked, buy now or purchase or whatever that you can get way more specific and therefore way more targeted with the types of ads ultimately that get in front of those folks. So take advantage of that if you haven't. Number 9, all right, we're almost to the end here. So buttons instead of quick replies in general will outperform. And I think particularly on the welcome messages. And what we notice, I don't know if anybody else has seen this, if you're taking advantage of broadcast messages, sequences, again, I'll keep referring to my favorite Seinfeld bot, but what Seinfeld bot is every day you get a Seinfeld trivia question. Which it's a multiple choice question and it asks you, and we use buttons for that. We started off when we first built it, we used quick replies and then realized that if you miss a day or two of your question and you go back into your chatbot and you scroll back, you can't answer the buttons. The quick replies go away, but buttons stay persistent. So to me, that's reason enough to use buttons. Personally, I like the look and feel of the quick replies, but buttons just from either an initial conversation starter and just a general experience, we're tending to use more buttons than quick replies in general.
And the other point to mention there too that I think is super important is that whether it's the device you're using, which you have the bullet point there, whether it's the device you're using or sometimes it's just Messenger being Messenger, sometimes quick replies won't even render, because I've done that before. Sending broadcasts in our Chatfuel bot will have a call to action on the first text card, and that's a button that says unsubscribe. But we've had it before where our main call to action is actually a quick reply, and somebody on the Chatfuel team the other day, they sent me a screenshot. They're like, did you not include a call to action on this? I'm like, no, I did. The quick reply just didn't render. So that is super important. And I also think it applies to, well, I could be wrong, but it might apply to Messenger Lite too. I don't know if they support quick replies or not. But important to mention to use buttons as much as possible.
Absolutely, yeah. I've looked over the shoulder of somebody chatting with a bot they had some Android device and they just weren't seeing the quick replies. So as Facebook continues to evolve the product and all that, I'm sure this will go away. But right now we're kind of dealing with the growing pains of Messenger as a platform, and quick replies either aren't as quick and they don't render very quickly, or they don't even show up at all on certain devices. So just be aware of that. All right, the last one, number 10, and we talked about this before. Generally speaking, and again, we're seeing a 10% roughly better performance when you use messages as this campaign objective. And when you go in to create a Facebook campaign, this is like the first screen that you see. They ask you, what is your goal? And messages, it's only been around for, less than a year. I think maybe 8 to 10 months. That one does tend to outperform. We had been using traffic as the campaign objective up until this Messenger feature, and we've A/B test messaging versus traffic. And not every time, but a majority of the time, messages does outperform traffic. Now, that being said, if you're looking for deeper engagement and particularly purchases, or trying to send people to an e-commerce website or get them to do deeper stuff, conversions can also be an effective campaign objective for that. But just from the top of the funnel, looking to get people to chat with your bot, we recommend messages.
And the $1 million question here, Ryan, before you move on, is with the conversions objective. I don't do a ton in Facebook ads, but I have some knowledge, and I know, at least I think I know, with conversions, that deals with the Facebook pixel. So you have code on your site, you can optimize it and everything. So, and somebody asked me this today, actually, like, what's the whole situation with using a pixel in a bot? Is that possible if you use a web view? Like, what's the lowdown on that? Because I've heard all different sorts of things.
I wish I knew the trick there. I do think it's probably firing some kind of quick web view of some kind to initiate that pixel, so that and that pixel is a Facebook pixel that you can easily download from the Facebook Ad Manager account. And then, I mean, that's probably the best way to do it. I don't know if that's a great user experience to kind of like trigger something and then it goes away. I'm hoping for the day that we can start to really use pixels in the conversation and not have to find these weird hacks to initiate them. But the best that and we haven't really tried it too much. A lot of our conversion and pixel activity happens on a web page. So somebody will be shopping on eBay, for example, or Under Armour or any of our other partners, and they go to view details or buy a product, and the bot just redirects them to a browser. And at that point, then you can take advantage of the pixel. But yeah, that is a tricky one. And hopefully someday we'll have a better solution for.
Yeah. So I would say too, like, the pixel is designed for, obviously, like the use case here would be tracking like what people who interact with your bot and Messenger do on a site, and then like sending that data back. But if you're just creating an experience natively within Messenger entirely, like having people buy in your bot, then of course you could use the attributes that we have built in the people tab again to create those lookalike audiences. Yeah,
exactly. The targeting attributes in Chatfuel are the closest thing that we have to kind of pixeling certain events and certain actions, and then being way more targeted around those events. So glad you reminded us of that. Definitely use tons of every Chatfuel bot we build. There's attributes firing all over the place, so that when we go to do our people tab export, we know exactly who we want to target.
Good stuff.
Cool. That was it. I mean, this was just sort of a summary of those 10 best practices. I don't need to go through them again. Hopefully that was helpful, and hopefully we still have time for the demo. I could jump
absolutely
very
and
quickly.
before you jump into the demo, though, real quick too, while we're on the topic of lookalike audiences, somebody asked, what is like the minimum or best practice, like minimum number to use when creating a lookalike? They said 100. I don't know what the answer is. I'm guessing it's like 1,000 or something, but what would you say from your experience, either specifically on Messenger or just in general, is like the minimum that you should have to sort of extrapolate that data?
Great question. I actually was asking our ads guy about what that number is. I anticipated this question. Do we know the minimum for lookalikes? Is it like, it's still unclear to us. I think it's I think 100. The more the better is generally the answer, but I don't think you're going to be restricted from using lookalike targeting if you have over 100 users in your bot. It may even be a little bit less than that, but
because I guess it depends too on the like number of matches you get too, because you can have a list of 100,000 people, but if Facebook finds 500 matches or like 2 matches with Facebook profiles, that it would depend, I would assume.
They'll let you know, like as soon as you upload the thing, they'll say like, this isn't a big enough audience for us to do lookalike targeting, or even when you go to actually launch the campaign, depending on your budget and all that, they'll say like it's just too small to work with. But I'd have to double check the Facebook documentation and to get like a more specific answer. But it's around 100. I think that's sort of been the threshold that we've been going with.
And one more thing before you go into the interactive demo of connecting the bot, everyone in the chat has just been asking like, will there be a recording? Can I get the slides and everything? Yes. Be patient. Everything will happen. Since you signed up in the bot, we're going to send all the resources after this. So fear not.
So my guy Barack just said 1,000 was what he just saw for the lookalike minimum.
Okay, cool. I only know that because I took this one class in college and it was all about data and statistical significance and all that. So that was my guess. But anyway, let's hop into the connecting a bot demo. Just to show you guys, we have other tutorials on this, but it's pretty easy to get it set up, and I'll let Ryan take the driver's seat.
Yeah, so hopefully you guys can still see my screen here. We're right into the Facebook Ad Manager. I've used their sort of filtering to look at this particular campaign. The overall setup in Facebook is campaign ad set ads. So we're looking at an example for, again, Seinfeld bot, and can go into the ad set now to take a quick look at what I've done from a targeting standpoint for this. So I like to use, everyone's kind of got their own ways of navigating the platform. I like to do it like this. Of course, it's being super slow.
And just to give context too, while we wait for people who aren't that familiar with Facebook ads, this is just called Facebook Ads Manager. If you didn't already say that, and you can just Google it and create an account.
That's right. So now we're looking at the ad set within the campaign. The campaign setup is very basic. It's that objective thing that we talked about before. So whether you're setting it as messages, which is what we recommend, or traffic or conversions, that's all you're doing at the campaign standpoint. It's the ad set here that we're in, where you do your budget, your timing, and then you build your audience. So right here is where we showed a screenshot before of like where you would create a custom audience and upload that people tab data if you've got it. You can set your location targeting, your age targeting, all that stuff. Here's where, remember I told you about the suggestions feature. Here's where you could use suggestions for a bunch of different things that they think might be relevant based on what you've added already. And again, I showed this before, but I've added a bunch of Seinfeld stuff, Jerry Seinfeld, Larry David. And so it's suggesting 90s music, Curb Your Enthusiasm, which I'll add, if it lets me.
It can be glitchy sometimes. That's its flaw.
The most glitchy thing in the world. Facebook's product release cycle is baffling. Like I'll be looking at one screen and I'll look over at Barack and his screen's like completely different. I'm like, what are they doing? But yeah, just use these suggestions, as much as you can for as long as they're available here. It's a great feature. Here's where you do your targeting. We avoid Instagram. I think I may have mentioned this in a slide before, but Instagram tends to be a little bit more expensive overall. I think there's still plenty of reach and plenty of scale with Facebook and with Messenger combined. So Instagram, again, maybe some folks can get it to work and get it for more cost effective than Facebook and Messenger, but we tend to avoid Instagram as great of a platform as that is. So we'll close out of this and then jump into the ads. So here's where we're going to connect our Chatfuel blocks to our ads. And we're going to show you, first off, just a very basic ad that I created, again, using Canva. Canva is a great tool for this stuff. I just Google image searched some Seinfeld images and wanted to pose the engaging question, the lifelong debate of who's funnier, Elaine or George. Let us know in Messenger, of course, using all those great emojis. Learn more, by the way, is just a pretty good kind of catch-all, I think, for that call to action button. They give you a couple of different call to action options right here. You can see them: subscribe, apply now, donate, send message, of course, is a good one, but learn more tends to work really well for us. So you build your ad here with your images and your text and all that. Make sure to connect it to the appropriate page. And then down here, if you keep scrolling, is where you do your welcome message. And again, always, 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 it was rule number one: use custom welcome experiences rather than the get started screen. They allow you to, and if you scroll to the right here, you can see this is what the welcome message will look like. I've used the exact same image from the ad. I've pretty much repeated the same question. Tap below to choose. I've got an Elaine and a George button. Of course,
not
I've got
quick reply.
Button, right? Not quick reply. I'm going to use my favorite keyboard here to bring up some emojis to practice what I preach here. George is going to get the glasses one. And then the action is postback, not website. So make sure you send a postback. And notice I've got, just as a placeholder, block name welcome message. Now, again, Chatfuel has made it so easy. I've worked with payloads and different things from other platforms, and it's a string of letters and numbers and stuff. Chatfuel, it's block name, colon, and then use the block name. They couldn't have made this any easier for us. So
and can you just briefly like switch in, assuming you have a bot open, switch in and show people where you get that like block name from?
Exactly. So I just flipped over to, this is my Seinfeld bot in Chatfuel. I was prepared to do this. So I've got a block already set up for add Elaine and add George. So I'm going to want my welcome message now to route me depending on what their selection is. I always think it's good for the bot to acknowledge your choice, right? If you pick George, say, great choice. George is one heck of a guy is what I say here. And add Elaine. So this block is named add Elaine. See it right here? So all I need to do is go in and go block name colon add, and I think it's case sensitive.
It is, yep.
Elaine. Make sure I capitalized Elaine. Yep, add Elaine, and then add George, also capitalized. Block name, add George. And that's all you need to do to connect your payload and connect the right button in the welcome message to the appropriate block that you want them to send them to. I'm going to publish this. Hopefully it lets me, although I know I didn't save my ad set from the change I made before, so it might not let me go through.
And the other important thing too that Ryan sort of mentioned in passing is make sure as well, if you have a lot of bots that are connected to pages, like he said, make sure you're running the ad from the page that the bot is connected to. If you try to, for example, if you have two bots and you run an ad from, page A and you're using the welcome message of page B, obviously that you don't want that to happen. So make sure that you're using the correct page that the bot is connected to. That's
right. And then if Facebook will let us, I want to take you through the full experience of actually previewing what this experience will look like in your feed. Sometimes when it goes into this review period, they won't actually let you, but the easiest way to preview for me is to check the box next to the ad and then hit preview. And it brings up what the ad's going to look like in your mobile feed. Looks like this would be desktop. So I didn't, depending on where you target it, this ad will also show up on desktop. And then this is what it's going to look like in the Messenger inbox. And then, if you click this little preview, it's not that clear of an icon, but if you click this up on the top right, you can then preview the ad experience a number of different ways. Sometimes I just like to preview a message, which will actually just, on my phone, it knows it's me. It's just going to send me what the message will look like on my phone. But for the benefit of this call, we'll do a desktop newsfeed preview. It launches. Hopefully I don't have anything too personal in my feed here today. But it's going to launch my normal Facebook feed. Oh, there's Andrew.
Oh, look.
Look at that, of course. And you scroll down and it's like, oh, there's my ad. Okay. So hopefully this all works here. The who's funnier? I definitely think Elaine is funnier. I'm going to click the learn more button. Again, slowly but surely. And I think this is a little choppy just because of we're broadcasting this and all this stuff. See, it briefly flashed the get started message and then went right into the welcome message. So here you go again, same image, same buttons. I'm going to select Elaine, great choice. And it goes right into exactly how my block, Elaine says hi to me, Elaine is hilarious, and then it takes me right into kind of an abbreviated onboarding experience. I do want to say, hey, I'm the Seinfeld bot, by the way. I'm going to ask you a trivia question every day. What do you say? And then I can jump right into the experience.
Good stuff.
We could scroll all the way back and do the same thing with George just to make sure it works. And it does. So we're good.
Awesome. The other thing, because we still have a little bit of time and then we can answer like any remaining questions. The other thing, if you could just real quickly, you don't have to go through the whole process, but show how if you don't want to set up the welcome message in Ads Manager, you can also just use a pre-existing block. Because in Ads Manager, like you can't use a GIF in the welcome message or anything like that. But it's the same process of just like the block name, but how you could, because you can just send somebody directly to an existing bot in Chatfuel from the beginning, right?
You mean, sorry, you're going to have to, so from the welcome message?
Yeah, so instead of the visual, you can, instead of,
Instead
So
of
instead of
using
like, go ahead.
text and image, instead of using the text and image feature, just do text only.
Oh yeah. So I guess regardless, you do have to have that double opt-in. So yeah, it's the same thing because eventually you have to basically when somebody clicks the ad, there's that intermediary step where you have to have them make some sort of decision, reply, whatever, and then send them to Chatfuel. So yeah, you can't do it directly. That's my own fault for forgetting that because I haven't done ads in a while.
All good.
But
Yeah.
hey, it's a lesson.
Yes.
Cool. So if you want to, unless there's anything else you want to show, if you want to bring up that last slide with your contact information and everything so people can reach out, whether whether they have questions or whether they want to have you do a project or anything. Please, and then in the meantime, we have a couple minutes left, about 3 or 4 minutes. So I'll ask you some other remaining questions here in the chat. Okay. Let's see. Pavel says, why do you use two languages in ad settings, US English and UK English?
Oh, I don't know. I just, I figured they're similar enough that we should select both, but I never really thought of testing one or the other. They're similar enough, right?
I think so. And then Alex, and I was actually interested, I don't know if this is entirely what Alex is asking, but he says, what is the call to action on the ad button? You said learn more. So you actually say from what you found in testing that actually outperforms send message.
Not necessarily. No. Okay. I just think learn more has shown enough times that it's a pretty good call to action. Send message also works, but send message, and again, we're kind of getting into the psyche of a human who's kind of like looking at an ad. Send message.
We should have had a third panelist of a psychologist here.
To me, that's like that suggests you have to do work, right? Like send us, right. You have to do something. Whereas learn more, it's like, oh, I'm going to click here and I'm going to learn more, and it's going to be telling me something. But it's definitely not a hard and fast rule that one outperforms the other. As with all these things, and this is what we do all day long, is we're A/B testing, and we tend to always actually launch versions of the ad that have learn more and send message, and when appropriate, sign up is another one that we use a lot if we're getting somebody to sign up. But yeah, definitely not a strict rule there to always use learn more.
Okay, and Hung Win has a question, which I feel like there's so many possible answers, but in general, do messenger ads tend to decrease ad costs? So can you get greater return on ad spend when using messenger ads in general?
You can, yeah. I think the general answer there is yes. I think primarily because there probably isn't as much competition. I think advertisers are still realizing and warming up to messenger placements. But for what we're doing as chatbot owners and trying to drive people to chatbots, we have seen the best cost savings when you include messenger. But I mentioned again, and I'll repeat it, right now Facebook limits you. You can't just target messenger as a placement by itself. I really wish you could. I think that would save even more money for some of my clients. You have to include the Facebook news feed as well. I'm waiting for the day that I go into ad manager and they've changed that so that I can just target messenger. If it was given the option to me, I would target messenger placements all day long, and I'd only focus my budget there.
Sweet. And then last question here, because we're pretty much out of time, comes from John, and he asks, what are the age demographics for Messenger? He says his market is 50 plus. Would you recommend running Messenger ads, or what would be your suggestion for sort of an older demographic?
Ooh, really good last point to kind of address. We see the best results from younger audiences. The younger, the better. 13 to 17 is as low as you can go. They will engage with bots. It's a very natural experience for them. Older people, they like to click on ads. They don't know what to do with a bot. I'm overgeneralizing here, but for older audiences, it may not be as cost effective to do this click to messenger campaign. The younger, the better. It's just a funny thing, and maybe again that changes over time, but yeah, that's what we're seeing.
All right, Ryan, if you want to bring up that last slide again, just as we say our goodbyes. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited. We got into so many different topics and so much actionable information and best practices and all that. So thank you again so much. Guys, if you are qualified, reach out to Ryan for any projects and anything. Obviously, you can see that he has a vast, expansive knowledge on this. And then to all the other people who are still here or watching the replay of this, which is kind of irrelevant, but we'll obviously have a recording of this so you can go back and refer to it. And that's pretty much it. So Ryan, thanks again so much, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Take care.
You too.